all, thank you for your time today. Greatly appreciate the acceptance of the invitation for people helping people under Access Link Consulting.
It's my pleasure.
So to start with, could you please introduce us about yourself, your role with Equifax? What is Equifax and what is ICIRT and what are the main goals for ICIRT?
Sure. So my name is Paul Nissen. I'm a product manager here at Equifax. So Equifax is a data analytics and insights business. We operate globally, but we've been active in the Australian market for many, many years. Originally as a credit bureau, which would be what most people know us as. But effectively, we help our clients make informed decisions using data and analytics. So really, that's the fundamental behind ICIRT as a construction industry rating tool, is using data and insights to provide transparency to the market around who they should be dealing with, who can be trusted versus who are high-risk industry participants.
So what's then the main goals that ICIRT sets in terms of that aspect?
Yeah, so our goal here, so ICIRT really was born of the Shergold-Weir report back in 2018, which highlighted some opportunities within the industry, really areas that needed to be addressed, whether that was around controls in the industry, qualifications and training, whether it was around the industry sort of monitoring and regulatory surveillance. So off the back of that, there was an opportunity identified to help provide the data and the insights to better manage those issues, whether that's a building's quality or a building professional failing to complete on commitments.
So why do you think that ICIRT rating is essential to builders, developers and consultants in general?
I think it's important that a company can evidence themselves, their credentials. Yeah? So individually, we would use our academic credentials or our work history to evidence. Much like a business will use their track record or history, they'll lean on that, but that's a corporate vehicle generally, right? ICIRT probably peels that corporate vehicle back a little further to understand the people, the processes that sit behind that really, at the end of the day, you deal with people at a company.
Yeah. So what sort of procedures and assessments that ICIRT conduct in order for them to ensure compliance and quality in the building industry?
Sure. So as you would know, it's quite a rigorous process, but there are a few elements to it. So starting first with the data assets that are out there, whether that's regulatory data, court data, licensing data, the commercial data that Equifax has around relationships and business ventures from organizations. So we start with that layer of data, and then we're looking at the organization, so the business model, the business in terms of their operational controls, the quality controls, not only the fact that they may have policies in place, but that they've actually got evidence of those policies being implemented. And then we're reviewing effectively the outcomes of that organization. It's not, there was always a criticism that could exist, right? Every builder has defects at some point, right? That's not an issue. What's an issue is a defect that's not remediated. Yep. Yeah, so that was a concern going in. Everyone thought, oh, geez, something bad happened in the past. You're going to penalize me for it. That was never the intention with ICIRT. ICIRT was, we've observed this, what have you done to correct it and mitigate it for the future? It's around the forward outlook of an organization, not just its history.
Thank you for that. So how has enforcing ICIRT standards influenced the consumer confidence in the market?
Yeah, so when we were conducting market research around this, we found that 40% of Australians were actually showing a deterioration in their perception of the construction industry. And that was largely because they couldn't trust. There was an absence of trust. That said, when we did that same research, if that Australian was aware of ICIRT, actually 76% of them had a favourable outlook on construction. Yeah, so 76% were favourable if they were aware of ICIRT versus 6% from the population at whole. So ICIRT really brings confidence back to the market.
So leading to this, to what extent does ICIRT ensure that the developers and builders are trustworthy and reliable to the end users and the overall community?
Sure. So, I mean, sitting in the background is the methodology that was developed in consultation with industry, but it's a pretty lengthy document. I can break it down to three probably key areas, right? So, in order to trust a business in construction, which unfortunately is overrepresented in insolvencies, first off is the financial viability of the organisation. Do they have the capital, the liquidity? Are they profitable? Do they have orders or work in train, right? So they're financially viable as a business. That's the first check. The second is, do they deliver or are they qualified to deliver the services that they are providing in market? So, are they keeping up to date with industry standards and changes? Are they qualified? Are they experienced in that type of work that they're delivering? So they're viable and they're experienced and qualified. The third is, are they managing their risks? So that's the organisational controls that they have in place. Yeah, so you could be profitable and have had no issues, but it could be luck. Yeah, you just, so those three elements I think are key, and that's how I would summarise how the ICIRT framework assesses an organisation. They're viable, they're appropriately qualified, and they manage their risks.
Yeah, I think AccessLink being an ICIRT-rated organisation and company, we understand exactly these three main points you just mentioned. And as you just earlier said, it doesn't rely only on luck for a person to be profitable and working properly. You also make sure that the procedures and the risk assessments are already enforced and in the company. Absolutely. And being relied upon if anything comes into effect. So I really encourage that path and how ICIRT are building the trust and return the trust for the consumer at the end. So what sort of goals and vision you think that ICIRT have for the near future?
Yeah. So I see ICIRT expanding in terms of where we're seeing adoption. So not only New South Wales, ICIRT isn't addressing an issue for New South Wales. It is a national issue. It's international, really. But we see it covering construction industry holistically for the key roles that are there. So it's not just a builder or a developer, it's key consultants and technical service providers in the industry, because a building is the sum of its parts. Yeah, it's as strong as the weakest link in that process. Furthermore, it's not just about companies standing up and promoting themselves, but it's about access to insights for consumers to make informed decisions. Ultimately, I'd see ICIRT being synonymous with a seatbelt, right? I could choose not to wear a seatbelt. It's illegal, but that's my choice, right? Much like doing business with someone that isn't ICIRT rated, it's a choice, but it's a bit dangerous.
Well described. Well described. Thank you, Paul. How do you encourage companies and consultants to be part of ICIRT and to take that step forward?
Yeah, so I think what's key here is being able to evidence that your value as a business. Yeah, it's not a race to the bottom in terms of price. You need to be able to evidence that your services are of value and you can be trusted. Therefore, an ICIRT rating is a strong signal of your trustworthiness. And I would encourage any business that considers themselves trustworthy to either visit ICIRT.com or speak with one of our team to learn more.
Thank you, Paul. I think a lot of people, they don't understand the difference between the Equifax ICIRT role and the Building Commissioner office. So can you please elaborate on ICIRT direct management with the building commissioner office, and also how the communication and reporting process works in both directions.
Sure. So ICIRT was developed in collaboration with regulators, with industry bodies, financiers, insurers, and consumer advocates. So it was a collaborative program to develop the framework. But the I in ICIRT is independent. Yeah. ICIRT is not government. It is not an industry body. It is an independent assessment framework provided by Equifax. Yeah. So the Office of the Building Commissioner is heavily engaged and invested in its success, given it's addressing a lot of their key objectives.
Yeah.
But when you engage with ICIRT, you're engaging with ICIRT, not the government. Information provided to us as a regulated credit ratings agency is confidential. It's used for the purpose of undertaking a rating assessment. It does not get shared. It's not accessible without your consent. So I think that's key to remember there. So given that the building commissioner and the regulators are heavily invested in the objectives that ICIRT is progressing, they are using ICIRT as a surveillance tool. Yeah. So as I spoke to earlier, there are data points that underpin ICIRT before the engagement with the business. So they're good indicators. We get better indicators when we've engaged with an organisation to get that clarity around the operational controls.
Yeah. Completely understand the separation. Thank you for explaining it more in detail. Also, I love how the tool works to the better always, especially we are now renewing our ICIRT, and you can see how the team is working in order to ensure that the systems and procedures are still implemented and developed as well, not only stuck how it was a year ago. They want to see progress. They want to see that the company is trustworthy in order for it to stand and move forward as well with the new renewal of the ICIRT, I think.
So, I mean, building on that, I mean, we will continue to take market feedback and continually strive to improve to make our framework more robust, more indicative of, make it better able to identify and differentiate trustworthiness against the higher risk factors.
Yeah.
I mean, we do not hold ourselves out as industry experts in every construction industry role. That's not us. Finance and data, that's us.
Yeah.
We rely heavily on our engagement with industry bodies to inform us of what the most predictive data attributes are.
Okay, thank you, Paul. In line of PHP's mission of helping people, can you elaborate on how ICIRT builders trust within the broader community and public, and how it's essential of helping communities?
I see ICIRT as being critical of helping communities and consumers make informed decisions. Absent information, you make the best decision you can with what you have on hand. So I can speak from personal experience here. My father invested as an equity investor into a development, only to find out that the developer had made arrangements with a mezzanine financier where all equity investors lost everything. The only person that made money out of that arrangement was a dodgy developer. And I mean, in that situation, I was lent on for advice, but as a consumer, I had access to very little information. I couldn't provide the insights as to the character of the individuals behind that venture. And I would like to see ICIRT progress to a point where that sort of situation just never plays out.
Yeah, I think this example applies and applied already in the past to a lot of consumers where they got burnt from a lot of dodgy builders and developers who weren't assessed, or let's say they weren't part of that rating. But now I think things are changing to the better, and consumer trust is back to the market, as you mentioned, especially with the percentages and the numbers that we can witness now.
It's reassuring to know that there is a lot of noise around the bad, but being able to hold the good up in lights and celebrate those that should be relied on and that consumers should have faith and trust in doing business with.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you, Paul. I really appreciate the time and the discussion. We're here to support ICIRT program, and we're always proud to be part of the ICIRT rating. So thank you again.
My pleasure. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.